Hi, good morning everyone. This is Rajeshkumar. Today we are going to discuss a problem question related to constructive manslaughter, gross negligence manslaughter, and aiding the assault. Disclaimer: the video content has been made available for informational and educational purpose only. Kindly go through this disclaimer completely. Let's start with the problem question. One cold December night, Zoe and her partner Vijay, a heavyweight boxer, have an argument during which Zoe tells Vijay that she is having an affair with Vijay's best friend, Tony. Vijay, in fury, aims a heavy punch at Zoe's head. The punch misses her head, and Zoe runs upstairs and locks her bedroom door. Vijay pursues her and bangs on the bedroom door, shouting at the top of his voice, "You wait until I get my hand on you. I'm going to kill you." When Zoe refuses to open the door, Vijay calls to his housemate Andy to help him break it down. Andy has not heard Vijay's threat but realizes that Vijay wants to hurt Zoe. They both put their shoulders to the door and locks give away. Fearful for her life, Zoe jumps out of the window, lands awkwardly, and breaks her ankle. At that moment, Rhoda drives in her car. She offers Zoe a lift to the hospital, which Zoe accepts. Unfortunately, Rhoda gets lost, and when Zoe criticizes her for losing her way, insists that Zoe get out of the car, although the temperature outside is below freezing. Zoe, unable to walk, waits by the side of the road, but no one stops to help. After a time, Zoe loses consciousness. Several hours later, she dies of hypothermia. We are going to analyze and respond to the different situational questions. The first one: if you are a prosecutor, what would be your preferred charge of homicide, murder, or manslaughter in relation to Vijay? A manslaughter by unlawful and dangerous acts, also known as a constructive manslaughter, a preferred charge would be the manslaughter by the unlawful and dangerous acts. Give reason for the choice in the above question. A constructive manslaughter requires a defendant to commit an unlawful act that is objectively dangerous, causes the victim death, and is committed with the requisite mens rea for the base offense, which is shown in R versus Church case in 1966. Vijay's actions, including his threat to kill Zoe and breaking down the door, constitute an unlawful assault under the common law. The, the act was objectively dangerous, as a reasonable person would foresee that such threats and the forced entry into the Zoe room could cause her to jump from the window to escape the home. Zoe's death, caused by hypothermia after fleeing the house, directly results from her attempt to avoid Vijay's aggression, establishing the causation. Upon which act or omission of Vijay would be a ground you preferred choice of homicide. The preferred choice is grounded on Vijay's unlawful and dangerous actions, specifically his threat to kill Zoe and his physical attempt to break into her room, which caused Zoe to jump from the window and ultimately led to her death. If you were Vijay's defense counsel, what argument would you advance in favor of the propositions that the chain of causation linking the Zoe's death to the act or the omission specified in the question C was broken? As a defense counsel, I would argue that a chain of causation was broken by Zoe's voluntary and an independent act, as well as Rhodes' subsequent intervention. Following the R versus Kennedy number 2 in 2007 case, an act by the victim that is free, deliberate, and informed may break the chain of causation. Zoe's decision to jump from the window was not directly compelled by Vijay's action, but was her own response to the situation. Additionally, Rhodes' intervention by insisting Zoe exits the car in the freezing condition was an independent act that materially contributed to the Zoe death and could be considered as Novus actor's intervenience, which is discussed in Orr versus Paget case in 1983. If you were a Vijay's defense counsel, assuming the prosecution charged murder, what defenses, if any, would you seek to advance in answer to the charge? I would seek to advance a defense of lack of intent and provocation. Vijay did not intend to kill Zoe or cause a grievous bodily harm, as a punch missed and he did not directly cause her death. The argument would focus on the absence of malice of a thought necessary for murder, which is discussed in R versus Cunningham case in 1982. Additionally, the defense of provocation, now the loss of control under the section 54 and 55 of Coroners and Justice Act 2009 could be raised. Vijay's discovery of Zoe's affair with Tony could be considered as a qualifying trigger under section 55.4 provided a jury finds it's insufficient to provoke a reasonable person to lose the control. If you were a prosecuting counsel, how would you respond to the defense counsel's argument in the above question D and E? In response to D, the prosecution would argue that Zoe's action were a forcible response to Vijay's threat and aggression, which directly caused her to fear for her life and jump from the window, which is R versus Robert case in 1971. Rhodes' action, while unfortunate, were not sufficient to break the chain of causation, as they did not override the causal link between the Vijay's action and Zoe's death. In response to the question E, the prosecution would argue that Vijay's intent can be inferred from his explicit threat to kill Zoe and his aggressive actions in breaking down the door. A defense of loss of control would be countered by showing that Vijay's actions were disproportionate and unreasonable, particularly as the law does not justify the violent retaliation to infidelity, which is discussed in R versus Clinton case in 2012. If you are a prosecuting counsel, what would be your preferred charge in relation to Andy? The preferred charge for the Andy would be aiding and abetting an assault under the Section 8 of the Accessories and Abettors Act 1861. Give the reason for your answer in G. Andy assisted Vijay by helping to broke down the door, knowing that Vijay intended to harm Zoe. Under R vs. Jogi case in 2016, a person can be liable as an accessory if they intentionally assist or encourage the commission of an offense with the knowledge of the principal intent. The Andy's action directly enabled Vijay to carry out the assault, making him complicit in unlawful act. If you were the prosecuting counsel, what would be your preferred charge in relation to Rhoda? The preferred charge for the Rhoda would be a gross negligence manslaughter. Give reason for your answer in I. The gross negligence manslaughter recurs a duty of care, a breach of the duty, causation, and the breach being grossly negligent enough to warrant the criminal liability, which is discussed in the case R versus Adamco in 1994. Rhoda owed Zoo a duty of care once she agreed to drive her to the hospital. Forcing Zoe out of the car in freezing conditions was a clear breach of the duty, as it exposed Zoe to a foreseeable risk of severe harm. This breach contributed significantly to Zoe's death, satisfying both causation and the standard of gross negligence. If you were the defense counsel, what arguments would you raise in answer to the charge in I? As a defense counsel, I would argue that Rhodes' action were not grossly negligent because she could not have foreseen that leaving Zoe by the roadside would lead to her death. Rhoda did not cause Zoe's injury or initial peril, which arose from Vijay's actions. Additionally, I would contend that Zoe's death was caused by the intervening factors such as Vijay's threat and Zoe's decision to jump from the window, which broke the chain of causation as discussed in R versus Kennedy number 2 in 2007 case. Let's conclude. Vijay is likely liable for the constructive manslaughter due to his unlawful and dangerous acts that caused Zoe's death, and he is liable as an accessory for aiding the assault. Rhoda's action could amount to the gross negligence manslaughter due to her breach of the duty, although the defense could argue the chain of causation was broken. Thank you.